Yeah, boy, it's April 9th, and it's episode 70, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer. I'm your host, Uncle Buckets. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer is the official podcast of thefantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is @fantasyauction. We have a great show for you tonight. It's a Dynasty show. We're going to spend the next hour talking nothing but Dynasty. We've got two great guests on for us tonight. That's right. It's going to be a live 5. I don't know how this is going to work. We've never done 5 on here, but we'll give her a shot. So we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff tonight. We're going to talk about how to start a Dynasty League. We're going to talk about startup draft strategy for those 2014 owners. And then we're going to talk about this year's key players in Dynasty. Of course, the boys are here. The experts are here. He's getting ready for a baby shower pretty soon. Slim, how you doing tonight? How are those plans going? I heard about it at my house.
Well, I don't have to plan anything except for just to show up, I guess, at the end of it. Sounds like to load up the vehicle.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you get to do a cameo at the baby shower? That doesn't usually happen.
I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be pretty hungover, I think, after Friday night. So.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's Saturday. Hey, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll just continue on. I kind of like this one, Blister. He's making trades like he's the Wolf of Wall Street. Blister, are you ready for the hockey draft Friday night? Is he there? He's on mute. What a guy. Where is he? Yes, he's doing fine. Already. He's made a lot of trades. He's conferred with me twice. Just kidding. Are you still there, Blister? No, he's on mute. Well, that's fine. Anyway, we'll move on. And tonight we've got two special guests. It's the first time. It's his first time on the show, but not his first time on a podcast. Vincent, Gabriele, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on. We're excited to have you on. We've been talking with you for well over a year now. He deems himself on Twitter as Mr. Auction, so it was a natural fit for us. So we'll continue on with the next intro. He's been here before, and I'm sure he'll be here again as long as we don't discuss curling tonight, he says. Dave Cherney, the Road Warrior, is here. How you doing tonight?
Fantastic, guys. Always glad to have an opportunity to speak a little football with you guys. And I have to say, I know we talked about curling a little bit on Twitter, but you got me a little bit intrigued now. 2015 could be the breakout year for some Dynasty curling. I'm looking at
Hey.
We must be, Slim, there's got to be fantasy curling somewhere. We'll have to talk to Punkari must have a line on that.
I hope not.
Anyways, the ECL was interested in the curling as well. It sure shows our colors of red and white being up here in the Great White North. So anytime, Dave, you got some curling questions. We almost made it to the B final this year, so we're kind of a big deal up here.
You're my man. You guys are my go-to.
All right. All right, well, it's later on the East Coast, so let's get this thing moving. If you're ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. So like I said earlier, we got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about how to start a Dynasty League, startup strategy for Dynasty owners, and of course, we'll take a look at the key players for 2014 in Dynasty. But before we get into that, let's actually officially meet the guests. We've introduced them. Let's have them talk a little bit about themselves. Vince, why don't you start first? Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and a little about you with fantasy?
Sure. Well, as you guys know, I've been involved in auction league fantasy football since 1999. Mike McGowan, and who's another one of our ECL owners, and I started up an auction league once we were in college. And we've kept the same group of 12 guys for the past 14 years doing auction leagues before kind of auction leagues became as popular as they are now. So we've been running the auction league for 14 years. I myself spent 4 years working in the NFL at the league office here in New York City. So I kind of have a PhD, I think, in football, spending 4 years there with some of the guys there. And that's kind of where I got involved with Dynasty League football. And played in about several Dynasty leagues, and I still play in some Dynasty leagues with a bunch of my buddies at the NFL league office. So, the Dynasty for me, it's been about 4 years. Auction league football, 14 going on 15.
It's awesome. So we're bringing on the experts, and that's what we do here on the Old Fantasy Football Auctioneer. Me, Blister, and Slim, we've got some input. We've been working our skills, but when we need the help, we've got lots of friends out there to help us out. So Vince, thanks a lot for coming on the air with us tonight.
No problem. Can't wait.
All right. And we'll move on, Dave. Most of our listeners know you already because you've been on, and if they're following us on Twitter, we've got lots of banter on there. But for the few of the listeners that don't know who you are, why don't you tell them who you are?
Yeah, pleasure. Dave Cherney. Actually took over a position, actually handling the Dynasty content over at the rebirth of Fantasy Football Oasis. Mainly known, they've just started up their Dynasty segment over there, and if you're not familiar with what they deem as developmental Dynasty, it's actually not even just looking at this year's rookies, but they are going to the entire college class, and some of those fools over there are actually into high school players.
Oh,
so if you're really looking, if you're really looking to go deep, there are some real knuckleheads over there and know a hell of a lot more than I do. But personally, I've been playing fantasy football since the early 90s, pencil, paper, USA Today type of stuff.
Right.
And I've been playing Dynasty. I've been going to my 6th year, and foolish me, started my first Dynasty was actually a contract auction league, which I had played neither of those before. So hopefully I've learned a good bit about the auction format, fell in love with it. I'm always spouting it. So with that, let's move on.
All right, awesome. And Dave, we've been talking with Dave about this, the wave of the future of auction and Dynasty coming together and becoming one, and the great way that you can add to your Dynasty league by bringing auction into it, like he says, with the auction contracts and whatnot. So I don't know if we'll get that deep into it or real degenerate talking, junior high football players, but we'll see how far we go tonight. So I guess just to kind of get us going, Slim, I guess we've been discussing off the air some stuff about you starting up a Dynasty. So what is it about Dynasty that's got you so interested in moving in that direction, and why do you think it's important for us to talk Dynasty tonight?
Well, I think Dynasty, you have the ultimate control of your team, right? The days of snake draft, we've talked about this before. They're in my opinion, long done. You've seen all these new formats that are out there. It's just almost too boring just to do a regular snake draft. I mean, now it's, I think it's reflective of society almost in general. We need more stimulus, right? With our iPads and our satellite dishes and our cell phones. I mean, the regular way of doing things just gets mundane for us now, so it's time to up the ante, and this is something that you can do year-round, year after year, and like I said, you control your team literally from start to finish, and I think that's the thing that attracts a lot of serious fantasy football players. It's the season never ends, and for a lot of us, once football season ends, it's kind of a lull, trying to fill that void with some kind of sport or something competitive. And as far as fake sports go, this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, about as real as it gets too, right? Like you're looking at dropping players, adding players, trading picks. It's yeah, it's the game that never ends, which is Blister and I are starting to find out here pretty quick. So speaking of never quits, unfortunately for Blister's wife, Blister, how's your mic working? Is it going? Oh yeah. No?
Oh yeah.
I thought I heard
you.
you.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah, it's like a Verizon commercial.
Well, it's stupid because it shows on my picture here. It shows the mic muted on my thing.
You're working just fine.
And when it wasn't there is when I was talking last time, you couldn't hear me. So I don't know what's wrong with this Hangout. It's just a little bit backwards, and that happened last week.
Let's roll with it. So I was going to say, I wanted to apologize to his wife a few years ago when Slim needed an extra player to get into the into the big draft, I thought, oh, well, Blister, he likes the hockey draft. Maybe he'll be interested in getting involved in football. That year he took Steven Goskowski for, what was it, a 7-pack, $7, I think? Or
best money ever spent.
Yeah. But then after that, I think he vowed to himself to make sure he's got all his research dialed in and be super involved. And so since then, now there isn't a pool he won't take. He's nonstop walking around with his folder and his phone and his iPad and everything else. And I think his wife is a little upset with me for leading him to this new mistress. But anyways, Blister, what's getting you excited about the Dynasty stuff now that we're involved?
I really like this one that we're in now with Vince here in the ECL. It's a lot of fun because we got into thinking about football a lot earlier than probably we normally would because of the fact that we've already had a couple of rounds of drafting, 10 rounds of drafting, but it spanned over probably almost 2 weeks already. So it was a lot of fun getting into the groove already, and just like you say, you're building a team for more than just the short term. I mean, I like it. I like Dynasty sports from daily fantasy sports right up to now Dynasty, which will be going in the other direction of the dailies, obviously, and having something long term. So it's just exciting to be able to grab a team and mold it. And I think guys like all of us that are on here right now tend to put in a lot of time. And I think it's, if you're going to be putting in that time, it's just something that you can always have and kind of tool and tweak along the way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and already, hey Blister, I mean, we're playing with these guys. We only know them through the chat room, but already we're getting to know a little bit about them. They're learning a little bit about us, and I know that we've spoke to Dave before, and he's mentioned about how it's just a great way to meet a bunch of guys and stay in really close contact with them. Hey, Dave.
Absolutely. Around the clock. Again, it's probably not great for something you want to put in your wedding vows or something that's going to married. But for us, it seemed to work for me.
Yeah. So with the new one, I know that we're looking at it this end. Blister's kind of thinking that way too. Maybe getting some guys involved from the West Coast that have been out of touch for a little bit, and it keeps you kind of interested. So that's it's been kind of a neat thing too, is meeting all the guys, Vince, in the ECL, and getting to share a little bit about us up here in the north, and getting to know them that way.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things when we were putting the league together was, picking a group of people that want to talk football all year round. I think that's crucial for any Dynasty startup that you're looking to do. You really got to make sure that the guys that are involved are true, 100% football guys and have no problems discussing, trading a wide receiver for a running back in, late February. Most leagues, kind of shut down. In our auction league, we saw that. Our auction league is the same group of guys I said for 13 years. We do our auction. We meet up every year live, do our auction. We go through the season, and once the season's done, we don't regroup again until August. So the football season's very defined for us in the auction league. The Dynasty League, what I like about it is, as you said, we're talking all year long about football. You're talking about trading picks. We've already had future picks traded in the ECL. You will be talking football with the guys at the ECL literally 12 months out of the year, which for me I think is great.
Right. I mean, we're seeing that already with the ECL. So, Vince, what are some other things, like you just started up this league? I know you've played before, but to start up a new league outside of guys who are just degenerates, what else are you looking at as far as picking the right set of guys for your dynasty?
Well, the first place we started when we thought about starting up our own dynasty league, we've been involved in multiple leagues, auction and dynasty, and we wanted to take the best of the EBL, which is our auction league, and the best aspects of our dynasty leagues that we played in and kind of mesh them together. It all starts with drawing up the rules, right? That's where your league starts and ends. We put a lot of time in, probably, I would say 4 to 6 weeks into really drafting the rules that we sent out to you guys as kind of the invitation to the league. Right. And, that document, to me, and Joe and John Kennedy, who started the league with me, that was going to be the first thing we showed everybody, and we wanted that document to be as encompassing as we possibly could. So when you read it, you say, all right, these are guys that really kind of thought out all the nuances of this league. It's a serious league. We want people to take it seriously. So I think you start with the rules and get that your vision of how you want your league to be constructed, and then I think you got to go through and say, what we try to do is we try to poke holes in all of our rules and say, what would we do, or how do we address if this situation happened, or if somebody questioned this, and what do we have a response for if we suspect collusion, or you go through all the scenarios and try to make sure you have it all wrapped up nice and neatly in your constitution. And then from there, when we came to picking the guys, I have four. It's kind of interesting. We have 4 of us that were in the auction league, which is me, Mike McGowan, who was the co-founder of the auction league, with Joe Compitello and John Kennedy, and then we have 3 guys from my NFL Dynasty leagues, which is Don, a.k.a. the White Shadow, Sean, the Red Zone, and Sherman, Pound for Pound. So we had those guys from that league, and then I reached out to my Twitter buddies, who are all all you guys are all football all the time, and I said, let me put it out there and let's get some new blood in here, and then let's really mix this group together and see what we got. And I got to be honest with you, I mean, this has really exceeded all of our expectations, because I really do think we found a great group of guys that are going to be active participants in the league. And I think you really got to put a lot of time into that process to make sure that you're not just building it for today or a year from now. You want to build a league that's going to have some good staying power and is going to keep guys involved, stimulated. We have great prizes in the league. This league's going to be a money league, obviously, but we've also, through my contacts with the NFL, have got some great prizes lined up. It's going to give everybody something and everybody a reason to want to stay in the league. So that's how we've gone about building this.
All right, awesome. And I mean, like you say, so far, Blister and I are having a lot of fun with it. One of the things about being co-owners is that we have a lot of sidebars too, so we're talking double the football, because him and I are trying to figure out what we're going to do next, and then also at the same time trying to figure out where the league's going next. So it's been exciting that way. Dave, Vince touched on a little bit about Constitution and having that good set of rules and regs in play. You've been around Dynasty for a while. What are some things as far as rules and regs that you think not only make Dynasty exciting, but also hopefully keep owners interested in playing year after year after year?
Well, Vince summed it up nicely. I just want to come back to say the leagues that I've found, I've been lucky enough to find myself in, I have a tendency to stay in, because most of it's been through social media as well, and just getting a feel for the guys, getting a feel, and also I cannot speak enough of the commissioner. If the commissioner runs several leagues, see what type of track record that individual has, see what kind of turnover their leagues tend to have. Nothing can really kill a dynasty league more than constant turnovers, especially when you're losing your top players for reasons that are going on behind the scenes. You don't want a lot of that going on. So if you just do a little homework, as mentioned previously, you can do yourself well. As far as doing it around the clock, this format just lends itself to so many possibilities. Right now, I didn't know how detailed you want to go, but in my first league, which was a contract league, we were given X amount of contracts to disperse amongst our starting players. And, of course, one would get 5, one would get 3, and some would get just 1. And then when those ones would go to 0, the next year you have an entire free agency period, which I'm actually going through right now.
Okay.
We have a whole slew of players that are just free agents. So right now, and we accumulate dollars. Every year you started off with X amount of dollars, bidding dollars, and then we would do things like, the survivor pool is worth X amount of dollars, or even at the end of the year for teams that aren't even in the finals, we have like these little bowl games going on for 20 points like that. And then we just have this, which usually goes on about a month process of a bidding, and it's much like an auction where all the free agents, and you can rebuild your team that way. And then of course you're going to go right into the draft, so you can be just very cleverly flexible and add all these little nuances in it that can just continually keep it interesting, fresh, and just ongoing.
So the idea of mini games, kind of as the year goes on, to keep everybody engaged throughout the year, and earn bonuses into different aspects of the league. That sounds like something that'd keep you going Wow, well throughout the full 12 months, eh, Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to, yes, without a doubt. Like I say, this free agency period, it is hysterical to me because all the people that I know that play Dynasty actually enjoy the off season more than they actually like the season itself.
Oh, yeah.
It is a whole lot of fun just talking all kinds, because everybody is, undefeated at this stage, and everyone's rebuilding the team, and you're just always talking smack. You're coming back, you're rebuilding, you're reforming, new ideas. You have the rookie draft, which I believe we're gonna touch on. Just one other clever thing that I know a lot of leagues have struggled with, and that's at the end of the year, not even the off season, but when the playoffs have started, teams are out. People have tried to revise that toilet bowl type of concept.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I've seen that works very effectively, especially only in a dynasty type of league, is what they'll do is they'll give the winner the 213 pick in a 12-man draft. So you're actually going for an actual draft pick for the winner of that, and you'd be surprised how just little things like that can keep people intrigued and will keep them playing all the way through week 16.
Right, and that's the key in any of the leagues, right? Is trying to keep everybody going right through to on that final weekend. That's good. I like that. Hey, Slim, I know you're looking at you've put out the feelers now, and it sounds like a lot of guys are interested in starting up our local dynasty. Any questions for Dave and Vince about kind of where to go from here now that you're getting a feel for it?
Well, my biggest thing, and I kind of talked to Dave a little bit, we were emailing back and forth, was trying to come up with a set of rules. I guess what I would ask you guys is, for somebody and for a group of guys that are going to be fairly new to Dynasty, I would say that we're all fairly experienced, obviously, with pretty serious fantasy football and mostly with auctions and stuff. But what kind of set of rules would you think would be best for a startup dynasty? Like how intense would you want to dive into it as far as setting up intricate rules and scoring and things like that?
Someone jump. Vince, why don't you go first, because we haven't heard you first. Couple seconds.
Yeah, sure. It's a difficult question to answer, because you want your league to have a unique appeal, to want people to stay in it. So you want to have some unique rules, and you want to have aspects of your league to make it stick out. At the same time, if you're new to Dynasty, you don't want to have an overly complicated league where guys are saying, well, this may be too much for me, and next thing you know, you have turnover, right? So it's that delicate balance there. I think there is a lot of sites you can go out now and find all kinds of information on startup Dynasty rules and what works and what doesn't. You have to make the decision if you want to do a draft like we do in the ECL, or if you want to do a straight auction. You could do a straight auction. You take out, a lot of the ability to trade picks, which kind of makes Dynasty, I think, a little interesting, but maybe a simpler way for people to kind of dive in and get involved. You have a simple salary cap Dynasty league where you can keep players as long as you're staying under the cap. So there's more than obviously one way to skin the cat, but I think you have to try to figure out, once you have an idea of what guys are going to be in your league, what their level is, and kind of how intricate you can kind of make your league.
Good stuff. Right, Dave, what do you got? Any input there for Slim?
Sure. Always.
I knew you would. I didn't have to ask. It was a redundant question.
The biggest thing that's, you want to keep it as simple as you can, but here's one thing that I've had a problem with in some of my leagues, is that you want to be clear on the format and your scoring system. One thing that I had happen in one of my leagues is that they added an extra flex position. Now, I find that in a dynasty league, people will draft around the format that is originally laid out, and if you start changing rules or scoring or things of that nature, or changing the how field goals are operated, or changing how defenses score, 2-3 years down the line, it doesn't really look good, because you'll be surprised how many people will draft around your original concept of how you see the leagues, on your roster sizes, or all of a sudden, adding 4 roster spots a year down the line. I find that to be a bit problematic. So I would say to keep it as simple as possible, but stick with your rules. And I'd also reiterate to anyone that joins your league to make sure they read and understand the rules to a T, because that's one way for an owner to be frustrated if they don't really understand, get in the middle of it, and then they want to bug out, which you definitely don't want to have. So I just say just try to be clear. I would gather as much input as I could to find out, what the majority of the group is, but also want it to be about as straightforward, and you don't really want to be changing it if at all possible.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on what Dave said, when we started the ECL, if you guys remember, we had a page at the back end of our Constitution where you signed it and returned it to us, basically acknowledging that you read through the Constitution, you understood what's going on, and then if you remember, we followed it up with the conference call a week prior to the day one draft to get everybody on who may have had any, and it was an open Q&A time for anybody to get in, get on the line, ask as many questions as you want, so everybody was clear on what the rules are prior to drafting your team, and I think that's really important to the startups.
Yeah, right on. Good
stuff. Hey, Blister, I was just going to get you to pipe in here. Now that we've got 10 rounds under our belt, anything as far as a new player to Dynasty that maybe suggestion-wise you'd want to give the Slim as he looks at starting up our local league? Like pros and cons that you've seen so far, and like, hey, I would really make sure that I really like this aspect of it. So, whatever, if it's specific or if it's general.
Well, from right now, just I guess a couple general things. First of all, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Now let's see the symbol's gone, so I didn't know if you could hear me now. So, well, I guess two things. I mean, one, the league, like we mentioned earlier, it's fun because it's basically going to encompass the full year all the time going forward, and it's something that I guess reiterating what we've already said, having the right guys involved, guys that are willing to have that kind of a commitment. I mean, we, like with the guys in the ECL, we don't know them, I guess, but you feel like you do already just because of the group chat that we have going on and watching each other, like Dave said, kind of heckle each other and trash talking and everything. I mean, it's just like the same group of guys that we play with, that we know, that we've played with for years. It's the same kind of atmosphere already, which makes it a ton of fun. So I mean, I guess having the right people and I think Slim's already taken care of that, and then having a format where you're involved in it 12 months of the year, it keeps that alive all the time, and I think that's fun and important. And looking at our newest league here, I mean, we will be involved in it all year round, and much to our wives' dismay, but it's a lot of fun for us.